Commander Thomas Reed stared through the viewport, the Perseverance asterisk, watching as the alien armada grew larger against the backdrop of stars. Humanity's last fleet, 12 ships against over 200, positioned itself between Earth and certain annihilation. "They're hailing us again, sir," Lieutenant Davis reported from her communication station. Reed nodded. "Put them through." The translator converted the alien ambassador's clicks and whistles into smooth English. "Human Commander, we offer you one final opportunity to surrender. Your species has proven resilient, but this resistance is futile. Your civilization will be remembered in our archives." Reed closed his eyes for a moment. 6 years of war had reduced humanity from a thriving interstellar society to a desperate remnant. The Kraul had systematically dismantled human colonies, their biological weapons devastating populations before their warships arrived to claim the empty worlds. "Ambassador," Reed replied, his voice steady, "humanity respectfully declines." The alien's multifaceted eyes glimmered with what might have been amusement. "Your species' stubbornness is remarkable. Most others abandoned the path long before this point." "The path?" Reed questioned. "The evolutionary journey," the ambassador explained. "When a species faces extinction, most recognize the futility of resistance and accept their place in the cosmic hierarchy. We call this quitting the path. You humans, you refuse to quit." Reed's lips curved into a grim smile. "That's correct." The transmission ended, and Reed turned to his crew. "All vessels, prepare for Operation Lazarus." Deep below Earth's surface, in bunkers designed to survive planetary bombardment, Professor Elena Morgan watched the battle unfold through satellite feeds. As the fleet's chief scientist, she had spent years working on humanity's desperate gambit. Initiating final preparations, she announced to the gathered military leaders and scientists, "Project Phoenix is ready for activation." General Williams nodded solemnly. "Begin the sequence." On each of the 12 human warships, hidden compartments opened, releasing thousands of microscopic drones. Too small for Kraul sensors to detect, they floated toward the alien vessels like cosmic dust. Aboard the Perseverance asterisk, Reed ordered his ships to engage. "All vessels, execute attack pattern Omega. Draw them in." The human fleet moved with precision, creating the illusion of a desperate last stand. The Kraul ships advanced, confident in their overwhelming superiority. "They're in optimal range," Davis reported. "Drone infiltration at 60% and climbing." Reed nodded. "Transmit the activation signal." In her underground laboratory, Professor Morgan pressed a series of commands. The quantum-encrypted signal traveled instantly to the nearly invisible drones now attached to the Kraul ships. "Activation complete," she whispered. "May God forgive us." The drones began their work, penetrating the biological components of the Kraul vessels. Unlike most spacefaring civilizations, the Kraul built their ships partially from living tissue, giving them unparalleled adaptability. This biological integration had made them nearly invincible, until now. The human fleet continued its choreographed resistance, taking heavy damage while maintaining the Kraul's attention. Reed watched as 3 of his ships erupted into flames, their crews sacrificing themselves to maintain the deception. "Sir," Davis called out, her voice tight with emotion, "Phoenix infiltration at 98%. Reed closed his eyes briefly in silent tribute to the fallen. "Professor Morgan, we're ready. Initiate Phase 2. In her bunker, Morgan activated the final sequence. The microscopic drones, now fully integrated with the Kraul ship's biological systems, released their payload, a modified version of the Kraul's own biological weapon. The effect was almost instantaneous. The living components of the alien vessels began to deteriorate, systems failing in cascading sequences. Confused communications erupted across the Kraul fleet as ships lost power and maneuverability. "Sir," Davis reported, unable to keep the awe from her voice, "is working." Reed watched as the mighty armada began to drift, their fearsome weapons silent. "Open a channel to the ambassador." The alien's image appeared, his posture now rigid with what humans might interpret as fear. "What have you done?" "We've introduced you to humanity's greatest talent," Reed replied calmly. Adaptation, your biological weapon that devastated our colonies. We didn't just find a cure, we repurposed it. Impossible, the ambassador hissed. No species has ever reversed a crawl weapon, turned it against its creators. Reed leaned forward. That's because other species quit the path. Humans never quit. In her bunker, Professor Morgan watched the alien fleet's life signs fading. The weapon had been carefully designed not to kill the crawl, but to render their biological technology permanently inert. Without it, their ships were little more than metal husks drifting in space. Ambassador, Reed continued, humanity offers you terms of surrender. Your crews will be allowed to return to your homeworld with this message. The path continues for those who persevere. 6 months later, Reed stood in the United Earth Council chamber as representatives from 17 alien civilizations, former victims of the crawl, gathered to form an alliance. Professor Morgan joined him at the podium, her research now focused on restoring the devastated colonies. The crawl believed that eventually every species faces a challenge that forces them to quit the path of evolution and progress. Reed addressed the assembly. They had never encountered humanity before. Morgan stepped forward. What they failed to understand is that humans don't see the path as a competition with winners and losers. We see it as a journey we all take together. As the delegates applauded, Reed gazed out at the rebuilt skyline of New Geneva. The war had nearly broken humanity, but had ultimately revealed its greatest strength, the stubborn refusal to accept defeat, even when facing impossible odds. That was why you never quit the path.